Welcome to the Raw Path to Awakening podcast with Ezekiel and Domanique, where we share alternative information, unique, unfiltered perspectives on spiritual subject matter, and deconstructing colonization as we cultivate higher awareness in our daily lives. In this episode, we will be diving into alternate timelines, remembering past lives, and how we interpret our dreams.
So personally, I think, thank you for that intro, Dominique. Beautiful intro. So personally, I think, well, how do I describe what I've been experiencing? I'll try to describe the best way possible what I've been experiencing lately. I have been pretty much every night going through different versions of myself on different dimensions, and what I believe that um dreams are is a glimpse into your alternate self, and so whatever you're dreaming about, like even in like the Marvel movies, like I'm not sure if you uh watch any of the Marvel movies, but like in Doctor Strange, there was this one Doctor Strange movie where it said, I believe, I'm not sure which character said this, but they said that dreams are a glimpse into alternate timelines or different dimensions. Things are your alternate selves playing out, and I feel as though movies and all this media that we have around aliens and different dimensions and all this technology, that is the powers that be are getting us ready for what's to come. What is the like all this new technology that's coming out, and all this like new types of information that's coming out, and all this stuff. So the powers that be are preparing us um, through that media. And so when I in that movie, when they said that the that that dreams are a glimpse of different timelines and different realities, that really resonated to me. And I didn't really like, I don't really see movies as like, yeah, it's fiction, but it's also like kind of like um giving you a glimpse of what's actually possible out there,
Well, and it's like foreshadowing in a
you
way,
know
is what you're saying, is that it's foreshadowing, preparing our consciousness. And I know that Hollywood really plays into, the alien thing, it plays into our emotions around it. And in the Native American culture, there is this theory, or I guess I should say a belief, that the dream world is the real world. And when you're awake, you're actually dreaming. So it's this backwards, at least we see it as backwards, way of relating to our dreams as being a real thing that we're going out and experiencing. And having dreams that are really visceral, really realistic, where we feel like that really just happened to me. Like my consciousness just went to ancient Greece and I was there. And the quantum theory that everything is simultaneously happening at the same time. And now we're experiencing our present moment, our sliver of reality. And there's a multiverse of all these different dimensions happening. And when we dream, our consciousness is free from the constraints of this physical, I don't want to call it a prison, but a container,
vessel a
vessel,
vessel
where we're experiencing that like tunnel of consciousness, right? And this experience where I'm with you and we're in this room. And so I know that a lot of ancient cultures have a lot of theories around the dream time. And your experience, your dreams are really vivid and very intense. Share with us.
yeah, so I've had dreams where I'm in Atlantis. There's a timeline where, or I'm like going back in a back in time, but it may be back in time in a different timeline. Because like what I believe is that there's like timeline. Okay, so there's stuff that's all happening now. Everything's all happening now, but like if for the sake of me explaining this, I'm gonna call it in the past. So I had a vivid dream of me when they were still constructing Atlantis, and it was just wood on water, like wooden houses and stuff on water, and I was looking out into the moon, and the moon was a crescent moon, and it was like dark, and I was just experiencing the water, and that was one. There's one where there was one reality. There's another reality where there was these machines that came from space, and they're like they came and they injected people with this like serum to make everyone into vampires, and it was pretty wild because like the dream kind of like fast forwards, and where I'm a vampire, like everyone else is a vampire, and I'm like frustrated because I don't want to be a vampire and I didn't want to be taken up by those machines, and so I'm trying to find out a cure. I'm like in this building in a hot springs, and I'm trying to figure out like how am I gonna like get all these people back to normal, you know? So that was one. That was another dream. So what I'm trying to say is I have a lot of these different very vivid experiences on different timelines. There's times where I've been killed by a werewolf, um, and I, I think the ones that really get to me are the ones that hit closer to home, where it's more like there's just slight tweaks in my family or slight tweaks in um like for example, like there's a dream where I'm playing a video game and the it's Pokemon, it's Pokemon, but the cartoons don't look the characters don't look all the same, and I'm still living at my mom's. So that's one of the things that that what was coming up when I was living with a roommate, like I was still living with my mom. And that one really got to me because like I don't have the best relationship with my mother. And so I mean, not we're good now, but like there's a reason why I live by myself and I live on my own. So that theme kept coming up, and in those other timelines, I'm still in school and I'm still at my parents' house, and it just so happens that in this timeline where I'm conscious here speaking to you, I'm um independent, you know.
And there's also theories that our dreams are regurgitations of our subconscious and our healing and things that we're receiving in our waking life, right? A lot of Freud and Jung had a lot of interpretation around dreams being our subconscious spitting things out. And that's been something that I have been sorting through personally, where I'll have these dreams that are very directly related to something that I am experiencing in my daily life, and sorting out which of it is actually these like past life or alternate timeline realities, and how much of it is a regurgitation and processing emotionally of what's happening in my conscious life.
Yeah.
Because our consciousness is infinite. We can go to all these different places. If you've done psychedelics, you know how much consciousness can affect the breath. You don't even have to do psychedelics. You can go on a freaking breathwork journey for 30, 45 minutes and experience the same level of consciousness expansion as you would, you know, taking maybe half a hit of acid. I wouldn't say a full one because, if you know, you know. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is that there is, I think there's both. I think that there's some subconscious reiteration
Mm,
and being able to sort that out. It's our subconscious's ability to sort that out.
yeah.
And then there's also these ones that are really off the wall. Like, okay, so one time I had this dream, right? And it was right before I woke up. And I was a child prophet in Atlantis. And we were taken from our homes when we were about 4 or 5 years old. And we were given to the temple. And we were all these little girls lived in the temple together. And we had a buddy. And we would wear these white gowns. And our buddy, our job was we were the child prophets that would receive information about these other timelines, and
Mm,
then we would talk with our sister, right? And we would have to keep each other awake throughout the night to keep recalling our dreams and tell each other our dreams. And part of it was when you verbally describe your dream to somebody else, it's going to help you remember it, like at least 50%.
yeah.
And what we had in Atlantis is we had these voice records that were kind of like the Akashic records, but from these children. And it was, you were trained to record your dreams, speak them to your sister,
Hmm.
and then we would all compare notes, and we would then submit them to the high priestess, who would then put them into the records and the database, and then the technology would sort that database into seeing which timeline we're closest to and to be able to predict the future. So AI was involved, and it was very advanced, very real. And I woke up and I was like, oh wow, I haven't had a dream like that in a while. And I got my phone and I used the voice recorder, and I was
Mm.
like, all right, I'm going to start recording my dreams on my voice recorder. And it really helped me with dream recall, because there was a time in my life where I stopped remembering my dreams. And it was
Mm.
actually when I was smoking pot.
Yeah.
And when I stopped smoking pot, my dreams came back.
That was very interesting. You said that the technology that is experienced in that timeline. It sounds like very connected to, like, they could tap into, like, the the spirit world, or into that, and not the spirit world, but
Kind of like the quantum
into,
field.
like, that, like, stuff that, like, in this present reality we're still trying to figure out, like, I don't want to. The best way I can describe it is like tapping into that quantum field, tapping into that etheric part,
Hmm.
um but yeah, that's what really stood out to me when you told me that.
And past life memories, a lot of people will be like, oh, I've never had a past life memory. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they feel like they don't know, but really they've probably had dreams where they do have these past life memories, but they don't interpret it as that.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's really common to have these vivid dreams right before you wake up.
Hmm.
And that's when you remember it the best, right? When you wake up and you're just like, whoa, that was really intense.
Yeah, I remember you telling me you have a couple past lives. If
I
you're
have many. I have many.
well,
I had one experience, this it will always stand out to me for the rest of my life. And this was in my early 20s. I was really tripping hard with my friends. I was like, I had done a lot of psychedelics that night. And my
mhm,
friend, he's very psychic, and he stared straight into my eyes. And he was like, you are the oldest soul I have ever met on this planet. You have incarnated on Earth more times than I've ever met anybody else. And I was
mhm,
just like, whoa, I'm ancient. Cool. And it's true. I have a lot of past life memories, and I think that I'm just more tapped into the understanding and the memory of it.
mhm,
So my first past life memory that I ever had, I was 18 years old, and I had just received a Mexican egg cleanse by my best friend's mom, who was like my auntie, right?
yeah.
She was around since I was 8 years old, and we actually share the same birthday. And so she is very uh, been new age before new age was cool. She
Yeah.
was very into the crystals and everything back in the 90s and all that. And so she did this Mexican egg cleanse on me where you take the egg and you put it all the way around your body and you touch your third eye and you touch your heart, and I didn't really know what she was doing, and she broke it into water, and then when you put the raw egg in the water, it settles overnight, and it clears through
Well,
the different matrices that
it's
are
supposed to capture the dark energy or the darkness, and
right.
because I know this because I'm Mexican. I've seen this
Right.
I've seen the Mexican egg cleanse. Like I've seen like my not my grandmother on my but I've seen this happen like within
Right.
my family, not
Right.
certain parts because not all my family because some of my family was like, super Catholic and was against that, but like this is part of part of our culture and it's
Totally. And this was a white lady, okay?
yeah.
Blonde hair, blue eyes, very into the new age, but also the old ways, right?
Yes.
She's now a bufo sanctuary woman. So I received it the night before, and then the next morning, as I'm waking up, she or I'm sorry, as I was waking up the next morning, I had this I was like half awake, and then I would fall back in the dream time, and I really kind of forgot my identity. I was at this place where I didn't identify with being a me, and I
Mm,
was a man, and
yeah.
I was running in the forest, and I'm like almost naked running in the forest, right?
Yeah.
Like a primal old hunter gatherer, right? And I'm running, 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 and I just see the forest running past me, and then I stop, and I get to a clearing, and there's a deer, and I pull back my bow, and I shoot the deer, and the deer looks at me straight in the eyes, and its eyes roll back in its head, and then my eyes roll back in my head, and I died with the deer, and then I woke up.
Mm,
And for a long time, I didn't know if that was actually a past life or if that was a representation of my consciousness losing its innocence,
mm,
losing that that deer in the clearing. I was becoming an adult. I was going through a rite of passage at that time in my life, living on my own and learning how to be a grown up, right? I had
yeah.
just graduated high school. And so we have these moments in our life where we're like, how do we interpret this? Now looking back on it, I think it's a combination of both. I think that my consciousness picked up on this quantum reality, whether it
Mhm,
was my soul experiencing it or not. Sometimes we experience these quantum realities and we're just witnessing it. Were we really there, or was our consciousness just transported there for the evening?
mm,
You have to be the judge for that for yourself. Nobody has the answers but you.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like I can kind of tell when I'm in the astral, the spirit world, or if I'm communicating to the dead, or if I'm in a different timeline. I kind of have a sense of whatever experience I go through when I'm not in this present consciousness. I kind of understand what that experience is. Like for example, like 2 nights ago, I was my grandma. She my grandma uh Lupita, she came through and she was talking to me. It wasn't really necessarily asleep, but I wasn't like it's hard to describe. I was just like it's kind of like my whole consciousness, like part of my head was transported and my grandmother was speaking to me and she was telling me, "Mijo." And she was like that's kind of how she starts. So she's like and she's like she was just telling me that she had to pass away the time she passed away be, to help my mom and my uncle Pedro understand things about me in the future, you know. So she passed away because she told me in this when I was on this altered consciousness, she told me that um she was there to she had more power in the spirit world to affect my uncle and my mom, and there was things they had to learn, they had lessons they had to go through, and she wanted to guide them from the spirit world. So my grandmother, she passed away in 2017, and yeah, it's been very powerful, that experience, and that I know I was communicating with my grandmother. It wasn't a different timeline. It wasn't um a past life. It was I was communicating. So I guess, yeah, you are right. Like, it's it's up for us to use discernment and use our intuition to figure out what what experiences that we have are past life, our subconscious, our different timelines. And honestly, if anybody's like you or me, we're kind of already aware of what those experiences are, whether it's a past life, whether it's an alternate timeline. We kind of have a sense of it
Right.
in our gut and our soul. We kind of know what that is.
Well, everybody is psychic.
That's
In my
true.
belief that
Yeah.
everybody is psychic, and it's like a muscle.
Hmm.
It's like, are you gonna work it out, and are you going to practice, and you're gonna get stronger, you're gonna exercise that third eye muscle. And a lot of people don't know where to start, and they'll have a spiritual awakening, they'll have a kundalini awakening, they'll receive Reiki for the first time, or whatever the spark is. And a lot of these people listening right now, if this applies to you or you resonate with this, that you are on the beginning of strengthening your psychic intuition. You are psychic. Whether you believe so or not, it's a matter of how much are you willing to allow and believe in yourself. It's infinite, our powers. And a lot of people are stuck in the limiting beliefs. And sometimes the odds are against you, and you're in a really crappy situation, and you're feeling helpless, and like what can you possibly do? And that's when I just heard this saying from an elder: you put it in the God box. It's like you're putting it in the mailbox, but you're giving it to God, letting go. And I want to say that God is a very loaded term, but when I say God, I mean the infinite, all that is, all that was, all that will ever be, and uh the higher consciousness or awareness that we're sometimes able to tap into, but usually it's we see it as outside of ourselves because we're so dense in our
Yeah.
lifetimes here on earth.
Yeah. What did I want to touch on? I can't remember. It's okay. I mean, this is all fluid.
This is not scripted.
It's not scripted.
I've been on the spiritual path for God, a long time now. I think I've always been a spiritual seeker, but my
Mm,
spiritual awakening, I think, really started after when I was around 16. I converted to
mm,
Buddhism, and was chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. SGI represent. I was a Soka Gakkai Young Women's Division leader for about 3 years, and got my Gohanzon, went through all the ceremonies, did the whole 9 yards. And when I was chanting, it was the first experience I had of being able to do something without drugs or alcohol that would alter my consciousness, that
mm,
I saw a positive effect in my life
mm,
and benefited from. The churchiness of it was a little much, and I found shamanism and Native American church spirituality after that, and that's when I kind of transitioned to more of a indigenous spirituality life path.
mm.
But that was my initiation, and now I'm 32, almost 33, so about half my life I've been on the spiritual journey. So I've had a
Mm.
lot of practice, and now we had, we were like a very big minority, and now spirituality is trending. Now people are, using it as like an ego sign of like, look how awakened I am. And you've got the sparkle ponies and the cock shamans, and they're coming out and trying to ruffle and show their beautiful feathers. And it's like, that's not what it's about. It's about going within and reflecting and trusting yourself.
And a lot of times, if someone truly is on that path, truly is on that journey, it's sometimes very, very, very difficult. And this is something I'm willing to share on here. I've been in the mental hospital 3 times. I've lost control. I've been through experiences that I wouldn't want to wish upon anybody else, you know? So I've been in situations where things got very, very dark, almost demonic, you will say. And for anyone that is listening, the spirituality is not a trend. It's not to at least to me, it's not a trend. It's not a something that's hip or cool. To me, spirituality is something. It's something that I live and breathe every day. So it's part of who I am as a spiritual being. You know, experiencing this human experience because we're all part of God. We're all part of the consciousness of God. You know, God is experiencing itself through us by splitting itself into billions, trillions of souls. The Creator is experiencing in each of these individual experiences.
I heard a really great theory that we chose all of this before we were born. When we were, whether you want to call it in heaven or in the multiverse, or we're essentially our consciousness is non-physical, right? God came to us, came to you, and said, do you want to go down to earth and experience the multitude of experiences and emotions and highs and lows? Do you want to experience joy and love and pain and heartbreak and despair and grief and anger and all of the shades in between? And your soul was like, fuck yeah, I do. That sounds incredible. Let's do it. And there was a level of excitement there. And if you've heard of the channel Bashar, Daryl Ankh Bashar,
Yeah, I love Beshar.
he explains about the path of the highest excitement. And that is the true essence of your soul. Even if you're experiencing something really, really difficult, your soul was excited to have the opportunity to experience that.
Hmm.
And on the other side, is usually the breakthrough. And that's what people are reaching for. That's what a lot of these, when I say trending, I mean it's what I witness. I witness all of these, especially we're in Southern California, y'all. So we see all the LA girls and
Yeah, all the
the crystals and the Aya ceremonies and hi, I was one of those girls. Yeah, I went there and I didn't necessarily wear it as a badge, but I definitely recognized that there was a past version of myself and probably little bits of a present version of myself that my ego attaches to
mm,
being a spiritual person. And the more that I know, the more that I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything. And that humbleness, that humility is, I think, the key to really opening up that third eye and really surrendering. And the art
yeah,
of surrender is in most spiritual practices.
yeah.
And that's the feminine, right? That's our inner feminine.
Hmm.
But
I think the key for me is just to be the observer, to observe what is going on, and um, that's kind of how I stay humble. Is like so I've been through all these experiences, and even then, I'm just like I treat everybody the same. I'm always trying to give as much love and compassion and understanding to every human being. I'm not jaded by my experiences, and I will I just love everybody. So I treat everyone with a lot of love, and at the same time, I'm observing. You know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
observing the how things play out, how things move, how energy flows, how people operate. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and that kind of state of observance kind of keeps me in check, and kind of keeps me humble.
And it stabilizes your discernment.
You know.
And that's something that I've really struggled with throughout my spiritual journey is I've struggled with being discerning and using judgment as not a negative, but as a tool to not just protect myself,
Hmm.
but to navigate this world because this world is corrupt,
Yeah.
right? We've got thousands of children dead on the other side of the world right now. And meanwhile, a female billionaire has been deemed Time Woman of the Year or Person of the Year or whatever. And right now, yes, I'm referencing Gaza and Taylor Swift, the two polarized things, right?
Yeah.
So our world is not perfect by any means, but at the same time, there is like that surrender I was talking about that allows you to kind of you have to like accept things on a certain level to
Hmm.
find your inner peace, but then also stand up for what's right
Yeah.
and to discern, okay, I see that this person is not speaking out against something that I really believe in, or I see that this person screwed this other person over, or I see this person is talking about other people behind their back to me. I'm going to use judgment and discernment to recognize what's healthy for me and not give
Hmm.
everybody the benefit of the doubt. Because I used to be that girl that was like, oh, they're just like, especially with relationships, oh, he's just really hurt. He's been through
Hmm.
so much. And I know where this is coming from and I'm going to help him heal.
Hmm.
Bitch, no. Let him heal, but you don't have to be at the brunt of somebody else's healing process where you're
Yeah.
getting abused.
Yeah.
And I've been through that personally, really over and over again, and then doubting myself, being gaslit, thinking, am I crazy? Wait, no, I used to know that I was psychic and understanding and a
It's like your
great, powerful person.
it's like your energy is being siphoned, you know, as well.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. And what's scary is that that person that did that to me, he had entities that were attached to him that were siphoning him.
Hmm.
And it's like there's so many people out there that want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah. Dominic, can you look at the computer real quick? We'll see where.
We're getting off topic.
Yeah.
Mandela effect.
Okay. That was actually, I think that was pretty good though.
Do we need to
Thank.
clap again?
No, we don't need a clap. This is if you've listened to any of these podcasts, for the audience, anybody, we don't um this is all gonna be part of it, you know. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to. You're like. So yeah, just to get back topic, we did want to cover the Mandela effect, and I did want, if you guys remember, I'm not sure how many of you guys are on TikTok, probably a lot of you, but if you guys remember, um, Pikachu, the way I remember Pikachu always is Pikachu had a black part. So when I was a little kid, Pikachu had a black part
The tip of
on
the
the
tail.
on the tip of the tail,
Yep.
and
I remember that.
and I remember that
Clear
too.
as day. And even like little black lines, I think. Or like
Well,
brown lines or
let me
something.
look. Let me look.
So so I do remember this. Pikachu had a black tip on his tail.
Yeah,
I watched the show. I had all the trading cards. I had the binder with the protective things and the holographic everything. Like, yes.
yeah, yeah.
Pikachu was my Game Boy character. Like, yes. No black on the tail, by the way. Look it up. Pikachu has a yellow tail.
Yeah.
Only yellow
There is like this brown part
base.
on the base of it,
Right.
but I do remember Pikachu having that. And if Dominic, if there's any other,
Well, let's explain what the Mandela effect
okay,
is. If you haven't heard of the Mandela effect
okay,
before, most people have, but it's a collective memory that is not matching with our actual timeline. So when we say timeline, we're talking about the quantum timeline we're on right now. And there's been a lot of talk about, we're shifting timelines. And did we shift timelines if we all collectively remember something that
right,
is a certain way that's not? So the reason it's called the Mandela effect is because Nelson Mandela did not die in prison in the 1980s, but a lot of people have this collective memory.
including me.
Mm, I mean, kind of. I'm kind of on there. We're
That's how.
90s babies, so
That's
it's a little before our time, but I
what.
remember him
What?
something about him dying.
I remember in class, like, oh yeah, Nelson Mandela. Like we're talking about Nelson Mandela. We're like, yeah, and oh yeah, he died in prison. Like, you know,
Right.
that's what I remember. You know.
No, Nelson Mandela did not die in prison. He died in 2013, which is like way after we were in high school.
Yeah.
So that is why it's called the Mandela effect. And there's many of these. You can look them up online. What are other Mandela effects? One that I remember very vividly is when I was a kid, I had the whole series of the Bernstein Bears. Okay, it was this family of bears that did these wholesome little lessons. It's Bernstein with an E is how I remember it. The
Mm.
Bernstein Bears. No, no. It's you look up vintage book covers on eBay. It's Bernstein, Stain. And that just doesn't sit well with me. I'm like, wouldn't my mom have pronounced it Bernstein, not Bernstein? Why did I grow up thinking it was Bernstein?
Hmm.
I specifically remember the E. That it's like cursive. So that's one that I really remember a lot. Looney Tunes is another one. Tunes is not Toons. It's actually Tuns.
Yeah, that one really that one stands out to me because I specifically remember with the TOO.
Yeah, because loony is OO, and then
And
TOO.
and then like okay, so tunes like act like tunes like fuck like music doesn't make any
No,
sense.
it's cartoons with a double O.
Yeah,
That's why they were the Looney Tunes. So that's weird.
yeah.
Apparently, it was always Tuns. Curious George also never had a tail. I need to do more research onto that one
I need to
because
look into that one. This cure so so whenever your son watches
my son loves Curious George,
okay,
by the
when
way.
he watches TV on the uncle's big TV.
Every time we come to Ezekiel's house, he goes, Uncle, big TV? Yes, you can watch the big TV here because we don't have TV at our house.
So, does Curious George have a tail in that show?
So
That's
this
an
even says in the book, despite being referred to as a monkey, he is depicted without a tail. In the first book, George is caught by the man in the yellow hat and taken from Africa to America, where the two live together. George and the man in the yellow hat became friends and are shown going on adventures together. And there's this picture. If you remember the books, which I had the books growing up of the hand-drawn monkey, why the hell would you have a monkey in a book as a main character without a tail? Did it get caught in the man with the yellow hat's trap? I don't
I
know.
have no idea
Did he chop it off?
because I always remember Curious George with a tail because I remember I didn't have the books growing up, but my mom had the books because she used to have a daycare, and she would have the books for the kids she would take care of. And I remember those. I remember Curious George having a tail then, like
Yeah.
looking through those books.
This says George never had a tail, and that George is actually not a monkey, he's an ape. Some apes don't have tails.
Mm, that's so weird.
Yeah. So weird. Do 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 do. Twilight Zone.
So something I've been thinking about is like, are we all like from different timelines mishmashing now? Like, is Aaron our cameraman from a different timeline? Is he from a different timeline? because he remembers things differently, and we're we're all just from different, like, there's collective groups. What if there's collective, like, groups of people from specific timelines, and then we're all just on this one big flow of time now?
Maybe soul groups coming in and experiencing different realities. It's highly likely, and that's partially why maybe people remember these things collectively differently. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
weird. It's
Yeah.
a great mystery.
Yeah, I think in the future, when we have more advanced technology, when we start tapping into more of the unknown and more of like what Tesla was trying to do with technology, kind of trying to like, because he Tesla used to have this this piece of technology called the spirit box, and you could still
Nikola Tesla, right?
Nikola Tesla used to have this spirit box, and it was said to pick up not only um lightning from far away, it could pick up like voices of spirits and stuff like that. So that's the kind of technology that I want humanity to
Well,
move
don't we
forward.
have that? Ghost hunters use stuff like that, the EMF
Yeah, but
stuff,
I think
and they do have voice boxes. I've seen it
I
on
feel
the
like it's pretty primitive. Like it's pretty like a because like the voice box, it constantly needs to be switching into different like
channels.
channels to pick up the spirit's voice.
Right.
But I feel like if we were to refine that type of technology where it taps into the etheric, into the spirit, into the all that kind of stuff, we would there'd be a paradigm shift within humanity where we're using that type of technology. Because in my view, the Lemurians and Atlanteans had that type of technology where it kind of could tap into the spirit world, could tap into different dimensions, different timelines. You know.
Okay, so here's the timeline that I've heard about Lemuria and Atlantis. So if you have not heard of Lemuria, which most people have at this point if you're listening, but if you have not, Lemuria or Mu is an ancient civilization that was said to have lived in the Pacific Ocean.
Hmm.
And this was a very advanced organic type of civilization, very earth-based, but had advanced technology that worked with the earth, very sustainable, and there
Yeah.
were gardens and every it was like Eden, right? Like the gardens of Eden in the Bible, except it was a giant civilization. And this theory, this is the one that I've seen on Spirit Science,
Yes.
where that there was a civilization on Mars back in this time, and there were astronauts that came from Mars. It was the first colonization of Earth, and they came to Mu, and they brought new technology that
Mm.
was more inorganic in form. And this was the turning point of it took away and kind of limited the psychic abilities of the people in Lemuria, and then that civilization slowly crumbled and then became Atlantis, which it really reminds me of what happened with
Wow.
Europe and North and South America and the colonization there, where there were these people that were indigenous and very connected with their earth and their ways, and then the new world came to colonize and conquer, and then so Atlantis grew, right? Through the fall of Lemuria, Atlantis grew, and that colonization happened, and that's where they used crystal technology, they had AI, they used all of this tech, which is kind of the apex of civilization of what we're experiencing now. And what ended up happening is they became greedy, they became addicted to power and personal gain, and they caved
Mm.
in on themselves. And the earth flooded and cleansed them. And then the survivors from that flood are the original stories that we see in the beginning of humanity in that it's called the birth of humanity belt. It's the Mesopotamian,
Mm,
Sumerian, Egyptian. All of these ancient civilizations talk about the Great Flood, including the Bible.
mm. I learned something new then because I always thought Lemuria and Atlantis were two separate civilizations. But what you're telling me is that Lemuria birthed Atlantis when new technology was introduced.
It's almost like the Mother Earth and Father Sky,
Yeah.
but in a more colonized way.
Mm,
And what happened, the reason why they came from Mars is because they mined all of the resources in Mars to the point where Mars had no more water or resources, and they weren't able to benefit from that anymore, and essentially killed their planet. And that's
mhm,
kind of the direction that we're going with Earth now. And the theory is that now we have this, like Martians and Earth beings. We're actually, like, it's both different sects of humanity. Different, they say men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Well, what if we actually have this, like, deep, like, that's our missing link?
mhm.
There's a question there. There's also star nations that have humanoid life forms, which ancient aliens, all this stuff. We can connect on that on a
On
different day,
different day, yeah.
because that's a whole can of worms that I'm not going to get into right now. That I've done a lot of research on, that I have met myself,
Mhm.
and it's it's up to you to think if you believe in it or not. But a lot of people that have had firsthand experiences with non-physical or physical extraterrestrial life forms, um, were the believers.
I'm definitely a believer, and I remember watching the X Files. Like, I love that fucking show. That show was amazing, and that just got my wheels turning, and just like that, I was just like, that is like, I want to believe, like but yeah.
Mulder, I want to believe. Mulder. Yes, yes. Well, that was the first mainstream Hollywood thing that kind of touched on alien abduction, paranormal experiences, and it kind of validated and really, after 1987 there was a harmonic convergence that happened, that was like this, like, one of the first stages of awakening, and that's when a lot of the new age people kind of were coming together in this. It was called the harmonic convergence in 1987. And the X-Files, I don't actually remember, when did the X-Files come out. I'll have to look
It
that
was like
up, but
early 90s, right?
uh I will look
Or
that
is it like
up.
80, 89,
1993.
1993? Yeah,
So,
that's the year I was born.
okay, yeah. So, the X-Files came out shortly after that, and these stories of ascension, alien abduction started to become more mainstream, and that was one of the first instances of Hollywood using that and then going with it. And now we've got, I mean, so many alien movies.
Did we have okay, so I know we had a little guideline. Is there anything else that we wanted to touch on the timeline? Or on the alternate? No.
I have more past life experiences I can share.
How are we on time?
It's 12:46.
Okay, so that means we still have time, right? Okay. Yeah, I would like to listen. Okay, so some of the ones that you have shared past lives, I think the audience like to would enjoy that.
I've got stories if you want to hear stories.
Yeah, go.
So, one that we touched on uh, when we were first coming up with our logo. So, if you see our logo, you'll see it's a pyramid, right? And Ezekiel was like, "What do you think of this logo?" And I was like, "I don't like pyramids." And he's like, "What? What do you mean you don't like pyramids?" And I'm like, "Dude, I got past life trauma around that shit." And so a lot of ancient civilizations had pyramids, right?
Yeah.
So the first time I received Reiki, I was in my early 20s, and I got Reiki sent into my heart and into my womb, and it blew me open. Um, I was very sensitive
Mm.
and just started bawling. And I was standing up at the time. I ended up collapsing. I was crying. I kind of lost consciousness a little bit. And not everybody has an intense experience like that when they first receive Reiki. It was also through a lover of mine. So there was that cord there that he
Mm.
was able to tap into. And I went back to this past life memory. So back in the ancient Mayan time, I was a temple priestess. And one of the things that I would use in my priestesshood was sex magic.
Mhm.
And we would use it for cultivating energy. We would use it for fertility, for the fields, for the crops, for, I was the portal that we then would benefit from as a civilization together.
Mm.
And there would be men that would sacrifice themselves to be the seed, and they would come and we would do these sex magic rituals, and then they would be killed on the altar.
Mm.
And I was with we had like different priestesses and priests that were, part of this, and it was voluntary. It wasn't like we were like manipulating people or anything. But one thing that I did, that I had the jaguar, the panther was my, which if you have also resonate with having a panther as your spirit animal, the chances are that you have a lot of sexual energy. And that's channeled that way. And so one thing that I did is I became power hungry, and I wanted to experience more control. I was feeling out of control in the temple, and like I was losing my power. And so I would do these secret rituals where I would lure men into the temple and sleep with them and then sacrifice them for my own personal gain.
Mm.
And so the priests found out about this. And during my next scheduled ritual, I, after, during sex, a dagger was taken and put into my yoni, and I was literally cut open that
Damn.
way and killed on the altar inside of a
Mm.
pyramid.
That's
And
why you don't like pyramids.
and that's past life trauma. And so what happened that so I had all this, like I literally experienced this in this like
Mm.
waking Reiki crying
Mm.
thing, and I was like, I need to go outside. I need to sit in the grass. And I sat in the grass and I started my moon, and I started bleeding.
Mm.
And it it was really real for me then. I was like, holy shit, past lives are real.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And it was
And
opened up through a Reiki
mhm.
energy healing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, through my daughter's dad,
Mm.
which we didn't have her yet.
Mhm.
And that experience, I still resonate with that ancient Mayan priestess, but I've learned now how that lesson of that lifetime was teaching me not to use my sexual power for personal gain.
Mm.
And that's been part of my journey as a woman in this lifetime, is using that sexual prowess for your own gain is toxic. And that's the shadow of the feminine.
Mm.
And the empowered version of the feminine is to surrender and to receive and to be the portal and the bridge between God, the infinite, and creation and physical life. That's what
Mm.
the womb is. Our womb is literally a portal. And
Mhm.
all women that are born with a womb have a portal from the unknown spirit world onto earth. And that's
Mhm.
why we feel so deeply. And that's why we care so much. And that's why we have these giant ranges of emotions.
Mhm.
And it's through that that we have our power. But what gets twisted is when we feel we've lost our power and
Mhm.
we forget that, and we feel taken advantage of, or we feel unseen, then, well, what do we use to try and get our power? We use our sexuality
Mm,
because we're just trying to get back in control. But we forgot that we need to get out of control in order to be in our power. It's like
yeah.
this perpetual cycle. And a lot of women face this challenge because also our society puts value on a woman by the way she looks, by how beautiful she is, and that it creates this dichotomy inside of our brains of like where we know now there's an uprising of, feminism and our value is more than our looks and all this, but it's still deeply embedded in our subconscious.
Yeah. Even with the, I think with the like the body positivity and the movement and all that stuff, I think women still have a lot of things, I think collectively, that you guys are working through,
100%.
you know.
And that's why I do women's circles. And it was after that, after I gave birth to my first daughter, that I started doing women's circles. And I started learning the women's mysteries and how do I take this experience? And you know what's ironic is that in this lifetime I had to live out multiple experiences in order to understand deeper firsthand, even though I had that past life experience and it really affected me.
Hmm.
You sure as hell believe I still use my sexuality to my advantage. God dang it. But I'm learning now, I'm in my
Yeah.
30s. I'm more toned down. I'm learning. And we're always learning. We're always students. I feel like that's a good teacher, actually, is the one that admits that they don't know much and that they're still learning.
Do you think a lot of your lies, including this one, has been about power,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Power,
Because
surrender, and uh, expectations.
because on the flip side, I mean, I'm just gonna reflect. For me, material power, having money, creating money out of thin air, whether it's through my businesses or I'm just selling a like these crystal skulls that we have here, and it's like I put them at the store, and you know, that has been I've that's part of like my journey as well as a power trip, but because I'm incarnated as a man right now, um it's about the physical material wealth, and accumulating it, and there is a positive side to it. I share it, obviously. We're sitting in this room, this house right here I'm renting, and I've been able to do that through my businesses, and we're recording this podcast because I have the space to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's also been the spiritual power, because I know that my energy has an effect on people, and sometimes that would be that I kind of like, and in a positive way, not like in a bad way,
Well, the power doesn't mean bad. And it's
yeah,
just the way the money doesn't mean bad.
yeah,
Um, there is really no good and bad, but there's varying shades of gray
yeah,
of what is collectively beneficial and what is self-serving.
yeah,
And power is a repeat lesson in humanity as a whole, where we're experiencing these past lives, these dreams, these understandings of like, oh, all of this stuff, right?
hmm,
All of this corruption happening in our world. And what does it come back to? Power and control,
yeah,
resources and controlling of the people, or resources and having that conquest of power. That's almost every hero's journey, right? Is kind of overcoming this good and evil between power and control. And a lot of villains and a
hmm,
lot of these storylines are the ones that are power hungry and in our real
yeah,
world. And I think that that's a really common theme, but it takes different uh There's different avenues of that power.
Yeah.
And for women, we were suppressed for so long through the patriarchy for thousands of years that we had no choice but to receive power through other means, which meant through sex or marriage.
Mm,
Women couldn't even open up a bank account until I think it was the 70s,
mm, I don't remember when that was. I thought it was like the 50s, right? Or 30s?
maybe the 40s.
Can you look it up real
I'm
quick?
looking it up again. Yeah. 1974
1974.
was the
Okay.
first year that women could open up a bank account without a husband.
Wow. That's
That's
crazy.
not that long ago.
That's crazy. Yeah, I kind of have these fantasies in my head that if I was an all-powerful being on this planet, I would just execute people left and right.
The ultimate cosmic power.
No, like
Itty bitty living space.
like I would just like okay, so like for example, like um this is kind of like my thought process on what I would do. So if I was a powerful being and I would be like, okay, I need I like if there was an occupation or something happening in the world where some people needed to be taken out, I'd just be like, hey, you have 3 days to get out of this land, or else I'm going to kill all of you. It like that kind of I think of that, and that's probably why I haven't been given that power because I know I'm going to just be turned into a
But it would
corrupt.
be for a purpose, like almost like a Robin Hood, right? Like
Kind
a
of, yeah. It would be like that, but it's not the right way to go
or
about it.
no.
But I think about it like if I had the power, I know like what I would do. I would. There's a lot of powerful forces on this planet. There's these bloodlines, the DuPonts, the Rockefellers,
Rothschilds.
Rothschilds, and these are all the powerful bloodlines that control this world.
Hmm.
And I would put them in a public execution, televised. I would put all those families on a public execution and spill all the information that they have to the public on the internet. So people
Disclosure.
I would spill all the
Well,
information,
it's all there. We
and
have a lot of access to it if you research it, but a lot of
yeah,
people debunk it as, conspiracy theories, and then you end up sounding like a crazy
there'd be like no,
person.
they'd be like official documents,
Right.
and then execute all these people one by one.
See, I've had a fantasy, and I've had this fantasy when I first started doing Reiki and ascension type work. This
Mm,
was 13 years ago or so, where I would fantasize about the descendants of those families
hmm
having spiritual awakening and doing good with their power,
mm.
and having them converge with spiritual teachers and elders. And
That's a better one.
you're like, boom, you're dead, bitch. And I'm like, let's awaken together.
Damn.
But I have thought about that. Like,
Yeah.
because I felt so helpless. Like, how can we tip the scales? Well, our only hope is that those people will find awakening,
Yeah.
and those people will see what they can do with their power. Unfortunately, they have been born into so much ease and power that it's hard for them to really grasp what it's like for the peasants,
Yeah.
which is us. We're the peasants, in case you didn't know. Modern day peasant over here. Yep, I shop at thrift stores.
Not for long.
Mwahaha.
One of these days.
We're coming for you. Boom. Watch out. You're going to be the Mandalorian. Bounty hunter. Yeah, but I know a lot of people have thought about, both of those fantasies. I'm
Yeah.
sure we're not the only ones. What's another thought here around people having the same idea of storylines of movies, and they're like, "Oh my god, this movie comes out," and they're like, "I had an idea for that movie 5 years ago." Well, that's probably when they started making the movie. Are they tapping into the consciousness the same time?
You know what? I had a psychic tell me, she's like, if you ever have an idea for a product or anything, write it down so they can't take it from your mind.
Like MK Ultra? Or no, not
I
MK Ultra. What's
well,
the one where they read your mind?
well, they tap into your mind and they take the idea. Like,
Is
okay,
that MK Ultra? Or no, MK
no,
Ultra
that's
is
not
mind control.
that's mind control. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not MK Ultra.
There's
But like,
another one. There's another one. What is the one where they take ideas from your mind?
we get
103. We
103.
started at 12, right? Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we need to wrap it up. Yeah?
Yeah. How much time do you think we have on that camera? 2
Oh,
minutes.
dang. We gotta wrap this up quick. I'm draining it.
I mean, I guess we could we don't have to like wrap it up, but
Okay.
we still have 2 cameras rolling.
Okay. It's fine. I got enough close ups.
Huh?
It's been over an hour. We started recording at 12, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that was about 12 o'clock.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah, the psychic, she told me, this is a psychic from the Nutmeg House in Ojai. I forget her name. She's like, she's like, um, she's from Europe, and I don't remember her exact ethnicity, but she was telling me, Ezekiel, when you have an idea, please write it down so that they can't, because she said that when you write it down, they can't take it from your mind, you know. But like I've had that same thing where they basically like I, I have an idea for something and they do it, you know. And I'm not saying they're taking ideas from me, but like
how do you know?
collectively, I think people have had idea for that same thing,
Totally.
and there's someone who executes on it,
Right.
you know.
Totally. No, that's exactly what I mean is that there are certain things that ideas that we tap into at the same time and products, right?
Products, yeah.
Where people are like, "Oh, I thought of that." One of my favorite ones is the baby mop.
The baby mop.
Yeah, it's essentially it's like a little onesie that has little mop things where the baby crawls around and then it mops the floor.
Come on, Cedar, clean.
Clean up your own mess. Oh man, yeah. Children are messy. They're
Yeah.
messy, messy creatures.
All right. So how do you want to wrap this up, Dominique? Do you want to say any prayers or any songs?
Oh geez. My flutes are in the car. I probably should have grabbed that.
Mm,
Well, I'm just gonna say this, that I really am enjoying the ability to share and execute this idea that maybe other people have already had of this
yeah.
podcast right here. Maybe you're like, "Oh my God, I was just thinking about this the other day."
Yeah.
And 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 when you have those ideas, it is important to execute and to follow through. And that's something that we're all working on. And this whole discussion around past lives and alternate dimensions and alternate timelines and all of the different facets of this spiritual, non-physical reality, it's all subject to your own interpretation. Don't take what anybody else says, any psychic or
Mhm.
whatever. That's their interpretation.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out how to decipher your dreams, how to understand, see your past lives, the best advice that you can get is to strengthen your third eye by trusting yourself, by
Hmm.
doing meditations where you're relaxing yourself. Don't force it. These experiences come when you're in that state of surrender or that state of flow, when you're
Hmm.
just allowing whatever images to come through, and you're not putting an expectation on yourself. You're actually releasing all expectations, and that's when the magic happens.
Yep, that is true.
So I feel very fortunate to have had all of these detailed past lives and understandings, and we are the way showers. All of us.
Hmm.
All of us have unique gifts that we're here to share with each other, and I would love to hear in the comments other people's past life memories.
Yeah, so in the comments, this will be posted on YouTube and on Spotify. So in the comments, if you want to share any of your past lives or experiences, anything that we have shared here, you can comment below and let us know your experiences
Yeah, and your interpretations. Do you agree
or disagree.
or disagree? We're open to having mature conversations, no badgering, please. We already decided that I'm too sensitive to read the comments, so Ezekiel's going to be doing that.
All right, and
And
that's gonna wrap it up.
yeah, well, this has been the Raw Path to Awakening podcast with Ezekiel and Dominique, where we share our alternative information, unique, unfiltered perspectives on spiritual subject matters, and we deconstruct colonization as we cultivate higher states of awareness in our daily lives.